I'd asked the AV guys to have the Rocky theme come up. I'm not sure what happened, but good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be with you all today, and thank you very much, John, for that kind introduction. It's great to see some familiar faces here in this mission of making our country more competitive and more productive and more efficient. And I'm delighted to be with you here and to share a few stories about what happened in Georgia and tell you a little bit about how much work there is to be done and how well that I believe we're on the way to getting that work done. You know that the American economy has been an icon of entrepreneurship and creativity and vibrancy really through its whole history. And this appears to be threatened somewhat now as we're kind of in the conundrums of different challenges. But I believe that with the American spirit that we can restore our nation to its once economic superiority and vibrancy. And I believe folks that are here and the work that you're doing is the real key to future competition, competitiveness, and future prosperity for America. We've had a wonderful education, higher education system in this country, and I think the more we understand about the alignment of education and workforce development, and the more we're able to erase those lines in the future, the better off we'll be, the more productive we'll be, and the more competitive we'll be, and the more prosperous the United States of America will be. And it is a challenge. We haven't thought about it very much. But again, really blurring those lines into a lifelong learning theme of continual education, continual workforce training in oneself, and building a culture is really what I think your work's all about. And I know there's some exciting things to happen here. John, I want to commend you and ACT and Paul and all the people who've worked to put on such a vibrant conference. I looked at the program and the presenters and the speakers, and I know many of you are right on the front lines doing the presentations, and that's what makes your presentation so powerful, because you're the ones out there doing the work. You know the needs, and I commend you for that effort. I want you to sit back and imagine with me for just a second. This probably came to me because we're in the midst of a construction project at our business and home, and we're building a new office building, and I toured it yesterday, and I got to thinking about what work you're in. And I want to get you to imagine with me that you're part of that process. In fact, you're part of the materials, and you're part of the fastener community that goes into that building process. And there are a couple of type of fasteners there. There's screws and they're nails. And I want you to close your eyes with me just a second and think, are you a nail or a screw? Do you have your decision yet? We're not going to ask you to raise your hands, but are you a nail or a screw? Because we use that really as an example to tell you that there are many young people in the construction process of the future of America that need to fasten it together that don't know whether they are a nail or a screw. And it begins with the individual. It begins with, what's that old adage, know thyself? And the power of knowing thyself is powerful because we're able to be, again, more efficient, more effective, more productive, more fulfilled when we know whether we're a nail or a screw. Think about that, the different tools that are used in that effort of utilizing a nail and a screw. Can you just imagine with me, really, that screw and a hammer just trying to pound it in with all of its ridges and how it hurts and squeaks there as a hammer tries to pound that screw in? Or think about taking a screwdriver and trying to find the groove on the nail to get it in, and finally you give up and just take it and start beating it with the handle. That's kind of what we're doing to our productive and sometimes unproductive workforce across America today. We haven't helped them. We've tried to educate them, but we haven't educated them to know thyself and to know who they are and really what they're good at and whether they'd like to be a screw or a nail in this construction project of the future of America. And I think, again, as ACT is at the nexus of the foundation They're the foundation of helping real education with all their tools and products to know that individual, because it really comes down to the individual. But just because a nail and a screw can a building be, can it not? It's part of an overall process where other tools are used, other materials are used, and it has to work together in a community. And I think that's what the sense of the connection between the individual and the community is so powerful. And that's what we tried to accomplish in Georgia, was to connect the individual with the public workplace and the private workplace. And I'm glad to see so many employers here today and understanding. You're the ones who know this best because you're the users of that product. You're the users of that nail or screw. And sometimes you'll have people come to you who identify that I'm a wood screw, or I'm a metal screw, or I'm a machine screw, or I'm a lag screw, and yet they may be a nail because they don't know. And so as we blend together the essence of knowing thyself as an individual and then putting them together in a community of a building, think about all the things that go into construction, all the different types of materials, all the different types of fasteners, all the different types. And you know the other thing, employers, if you have a carpenter that doesn't know the difference between whether he needs a screw or a nail, you're in problems as well, aren't you? Think about that. A carpenter using the wrong fastener in the wrong situation won't make a structurally sound construction project for the future, and it'll have problems in the future. So we must, as employers, we must know whether we need nails for this job or screws for this job, and we need some of both in all these construction projects. It's not like one is superior to the other or one is inferior to the other. It's to have a different purpose and a different need for the function for which it's to be used. So employers are the ones that have to have the right people utilizing the right material with the right tools. You can't take a saw and drive a nail. And so we have to have the right tools with the right material, making the right product and using it at the right time. And then in the middle of that, you have communities. Now, as governor, we all like to get up and brag how many jobs we created. And for you employers, I won't admit it since I'm no longer in office, I didn't create any jobs. In fact, we were under such a fiscal crisis during my term in office, we had to uncreate some jobs, unfortunately. But the fact is, it was my responsibility, Ron, to create an environment whereby entrepreneurs, innovators, employers, risk takers, businesses would feel the confidence to create jobs within our communities in our state and within the state of Georgia. That was the role of the governor, to create a sound, solid environment where people would have confidence to invest their capital and to come and to create jobs there and to make a difference in the productivity of that community and a productivity in our state. And what we found were local communities were the key. They were the nexus between public policy and economic development. Frankly, we did as good a job as we could statewide in economic development and attracting jobs and building a program of economic success or the ability to have economic success, but we could not do it. A state is made up of, obviously in Georgia, almost 10 million individuals, but those individuals are collected most of the time in communities, whether it's a county unit or a city unit. They're in localities, and it's that local life and livelihood and opportunities that make the most difference in a person's life. So the communities were the real key as we sought to have the blurring of the lines of education and workforce development. And I realized that education is a prerequisite for workforce development, and we began focusing. Georgia was not nearly where we thought we should be, nor where we wanted to be regarding high school graduation. And we worked tirelessly on high school graduation rates because we thought that was the first key that opened the first door to a future of prosperity and productive life to provide not only for themselves, but for their families and collectively for their communities. So we began a program, and we thought again, we looked back in trying to connect the individual with the community through the schools. It all begins with the individual. Why were these young people dropping out of school? Well, the reasons were almost as unique as it was every individual. It could have been a bad home life. It could have been abuse and neglect. It could have been, I just don't get this algebra. It could have been, I'm bored, I'm tired, I want to go on and do something hands-on, I want to get a job, I want money, all of those various reasons. So what we did in 2006 and 7 was to place what we called a graduation coach in every high school. And that graduation coach had their team. Their team was the people who were at risk of dropping out of high school. You could look, the facts were there. You could look at their record, you could look and see where they were on track, you could see their attendance records, all those kind of signals. The flags were there. And so we had a coach for the team that was most likely to drop out. And that coach, just like my athletic coaches, we gave them a variety of tools and gave them this instruction. Sometimes your team members will need a hug and an arm around a shoulder. And sometimes they'll need a kick in the pants. And it's up to you to determine what motivates them and with the goal of graduating from high school. And that's why they were very instrumental in moving the graduation rate up 17% during this program, which was, if you're in education, you know how phenomenal it is to move those kind of numbers and how challenging it is to move those numbers. But it was critical that we got a graduate in order to begin the process of lifelong learning and lifelong workforce development. Well, obviously, high school graduation was not enough, and we never thought it would be enough. It took workforce development. So through the program of our workforce development, we created the Georgia Work Ready program, led by Deborah Lyons. Here is a member of ACT today and leading the program. Many of you know Deborah, working with the states and communities across the nation. ACT was smart enough after our term to recognize the talent that Deborah had in leading this program in Georgia, Georgia Work Ready, connecting communities with individuals and in a productive metrics-based, data-based system of identifying communities who are ready for economic development. She did a tremendous job in Georgia and now is doing a tremendous job across the state, working with lead states, 4 to begin with and more to come, because I think this is the essence and could be the real secret toward, again, competitiveness for the United States of America as the manufacturing sector is reestablishing here. Many businesses bringing offshore manufacturing back to the United States as we prepare. But the sad fact is, you may know this, and Ron, as an employer looking for qualified employees, there are about 600 manufacturing jobs today in this era of high unemployment that are going unfilled because of the lack of skill set. Isn't that a shame? That we have not matched, we've not aligned, and we've not linked individuals through communities to employers. And the community is the key, because other than the community, think of the community as the Facebook hub where employees and employers match there. Because other than that, if you're looking for a job out here, you go on the various sites or go interviews. If you're an employer, you're looking for the right kind of person there, but they've got to match somewhere. Otherwise, it's a huge universe out there where they may never meet together. I'm an optimist, and I'm a big believer that everyone is good at something. The essence of life is figuring out what that is and where I can find it and how I can be a contributing member of society in that job search and in that career lifelong achievement that will not only be productive and efficient from an economic standpoint, from a GDP standpoint, but from a fulfillment standpoint. We'll have happier homes, we'll have less domestic abuse, we'll have less crime, and we'll have a better society as well as a more productive society. I was telling John earlier today, I think it really is true what politicians have said for a long time. The best social program in the world is a good job. And you'll hear tonight from a gentleman who will prove that statistically, not only in the United States but worldwide, about the best social program is a good job. And what Georgia Work Ready did, and what I think the National Workforce Solutions is capable of doing, is the connectivity piece. We're in a world of social media, and connectivity is the real key. So how do we do it on an individual basis? If you've ever been unemployed, it's kind of lonely out there. Where do I start? I mean, I know there are all these resources, but how do I get plugged in? And I think, again, what we did in Georgia, Deborah, was to give metrics and give feedback on a regular basis, because every community wanted to prove to the economic development and the business sector of their workforce, because that was the limiting factor over any kind of business locating within their community. The first thing those employers or that business wanted to know was, what is the status of your workforce? Because that is the most important ingredient in the success of any business, is the workforce and the training and the ability, the capability, and the soft skills of the whatever it takes attitude of the workforce. That's what businesses are looking for. And the communities who do this best across this nation are going to be the communities who thrive, survive, and thrive the very best. And you'll be able to see winners and losers, not based on anything other than effort of contributing a world-class workforce to the system there. And we think these are great tools to do that. We had a lot of success, and we had communities really competing with one another. One of the things we did was to bring the K through 12 education community, have a vested interest in the Georgia Work Ready certification program by having a metrics of high school graduation improvement. So what did that do? That got more kids in graduated from high school, because the business community and the Chamber of Commerce was over here saying, we've got all the other metrics met except our high school graduation rate. So superintendent, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about what it's going to take to get us to this level so we can be a work-ready certified community, and use the nails where the nails ought to be used and the screws where the screws ought to be. And frankly, it'll be helpful not only to K through 12, but our technical colleges and our university system to know whether we need a ratio of 80% nails, 20% screws, or 40, 60, or whatever, and to help understand the longitudinal challenges in a very complex and dynamic global workplace about what place we will have in the future of our success. So I'm here to tell you it was an overwhelming success in Georgia, and I am absolutely thrilled. This is one of those kind of things, states get kind of competitive among themselves, but this is one of those things, John, that I am delighted to know that we can share through ACT these things that we learned about workforce development and education, and how they come together with communities, work-ready certified communities, to make our whole other states better, because our states are made up of communities, communities are made up of individuals, but our United States is made up of 50 states. And I'm hopeful that we'll see this kind of resurgence in all 50 states, so that our United States of America can once again be the kind of country that we want. So are you going to be a nail or a screw, or do you know? And the challenge today is to go forth and help other people realize what their skill sets are and what their aptitudes are. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to treat workforce development not like the weather that we complain about and not do something about, because we can make a difference if we act now. Tomorrow's workforce today does start here. With the tools that you're being given, you can make a difference, and it starts with us. Thank you very much.